out of the mouth of a fish. That's deity.
All right.
Christ weeps over the death of Lazarus. That's human. But he brings Lazarus out of the grave. That's deity. And in the Old Testament, Isaiah says, unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given. Child is born, that's humanity. Son is given, that's deity. Matthew says, when he was asleep. He was asleep during the storm. Waves crashing into the boat. Boat tossed about. He continued to sleep. Mark says where? He was asleep in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. Today we call the hinder part the stern. The front we call the bow. The right side looking toward the bow is called the starboard side. The left side is called the port. The hinder part of the boat where Christ was riding was where the pilot stayed. The pillow was not a soft, luxurious cushion. It was a leather cushion or a bench at the stern where the steersman sometimes sat. And the captain rests his head to sleep. The location of Christ in that boat is instructive. Christ needs always be in the place of the pilot. He should always be navigating the journey. In the ship of our life. If you or me is in the pilot's chair, oh well. Like that song said, oh, whither shall I go? But if Jesus is in the pilot's seat, there's a tag out on some cars I see that says Jesus is my co-pilot. Wrong. If Christ ain't the pilot and I'm on board, I hope I got a parachute. On the wrong ship. The disciples cried, Master, carest thou not that we perish? But they learned something. They learned that even when heaven is silent, Jesus still cares. At the darkest and most dangerous hour, Jesus arose from his sleep and rebuked the winds and the waves. Now get this. He could have whispered. He could have whispered. It would have been enough. But Jesus shouted because the winds were loud and the waves were ugly. But he shouted so that his fearful disciples would hear his voice. He could have whispered because the waters recognized his voice and his footprints. He had he had performed miracles at the same water. He had performed miracles beside the sea, in the sea, on the sea, and with the sea. Like a master speaking to a yelping dog. Stop! Be quiet. They heard the authority of his voice. The wind and waves obeyed his command. You and me need to obey his command. You and I need to obey the word, casting your cares upon him because. But Peter, does he really know what he's talking about? So Jesus said to them, why is it that you are so fearful? How is it? Why is it? How is it that you have no faith? Faith and fear cannot coexist. Say it with me. Faith and fear cannot coexist. Say it again. Faith and fear cannot coexist. Say it again. Faith and fear cannot coexist. So the disciples learned this. Faith is the antidote to doubt. The disciples learned this, that hasty conclusions are often wrong. They rashly charged the Savior with not caring for them. Jesus proved them wrong. We should never forget in the day. Are you listening? We should never forget in the day the lessons we have learned in the night. When you've been through something, don't forget it. And everybody that's sitting here right now has been through, I'm talking about some heavy stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if the Lord brought us through that, never forgetting the day the things that you learned in the night. I'm getting ready to close. So Peter said, casting all your cares upon him, for he careth for you. Did Peter learn this, or was he just making a suggestion? Peter observed in the storm that night that the master slept. He observed that. That the master rested at the worst of the storm. And that he continued sleeping at the darkest hour of the storm.
Come on now. Come on now.
Now a lot of us go to the doctor to get pills. To rest.
Yeah. Come on.
Peter saw what Jesus did up close.